Hey guys, and welcome back to Brexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, did you know that we enjoy paying the highest utility cost in the whole of Europe? Out of everybody in Europe, we pay the highest utility cost. Now for me, right, that should be a thing that's a shameful thing, right, for our politicians. But they don't care. What the hell would they care about? These guys, remember they can claim their utility costs. So if you can claim your utility costs, why would you care about what utilities cost? Right? And when you're taking, when you're getting a nice wage of like 86 grand, and then, you're getting, your rent or mortgage paid for you, and you're getting your utility costs paid, and you're getting, all your travel costs paid, and, you get subsidised meals. Right, you're getting subsidised meals by some of the finest chefs in the world, right? Because you know that their restaurants, right, in the Palace of Westminster, all of their restaurants run at a loss, all of them, right? But yet for all, you can get the world's finest food in there, right? Some of the greatest wines and spirits you could ever imagine drinking, all in there. Right, running at a loss, right, from whenever it was created, it's been running at a loss, right? No business in the world, right, could be running at a loss for that amount of time unless it's propped up by taxpayers' money. So you see, this is the reason why in this country we enjoy the highest utilities in the world. Sorry, in Europe. I don't know what our numbers are like in the world, but I'm quite sure, right, that we're going to be right up there, because anything that's bad for us, we seem to be number one at that. We're not good at number one, at the stuff that would bring, that bring prosperity in this country or make us all have better life. We're not number one when it comes to health services. We're not number one when it comes to even giving people benefits. Right, we're not number one. We're not number one to bring home the World Cup. But when it comes to utilities, number one. We are the best when it comes down to it. And when I say the best, I mean we're the best worst. It's not even as to say, if we was the richest country in Europe, then we'd say, we're all bloody wealthy. So what the hell does it matter how much utility costs we pay? Because we're all fucking wealthy people. We're not the richest. We're not even in the top 10 of the richest in Europe. Not even in the top 10. We're in the top 20 because we're 14th. We've got who behind us? We've got France. France is behind us. But my friend in France, their utility costs went down by 4% this year. Right? And that is at our old prices. That's not at these new prices, what they've given us. That's not at that. That's at when we was paying, when it was what? £1,000 or something like that. It was capped at £1,000 or something like that. Right? So, that's at those prices. That theirs was dropped by 4%. Not at these new prices that we're enjoying. And you say, well, why the hell, right, are we enjoying the highest utility cost in Europe? Why is that? Because they sold off all of our shit. They sold off everything. That's the reason why we're enjoying these high. That's the reason why. That's the only reason why. And you see, there's another reason as well, and that's because the house prices in this country are too high. I've been trying to tell people from back in the 90s, right? This is going to fuck everything up in this country if you allow the house prices to just run, to outweigh the price of gold. Because that's what's happening. Because remember this, right? Every single person that you meet, adult, are trying to pay for where they live. Every single one. Either they're paying a high mortgage or they're paying really high rent. But every single person, the person in the shop, right, sat at the counter, or the person, filling the shelves, or the plumber that comes round your house, the milkman, every single person, your kids' school teachers, right, your friends at work, Every single person is out there busting their ass, right, to pay high rent or high mortgage. Every single person. And that, you cannot have a situation like that, right? They have allowed the house prices to run completely out of control. And then they've made it that unless you can afford to pay 450 grand to buy a house in London, because they've sold off so much council properties and not built anymore, and it's like, well, you want somewhere to live? Because you're asking them, say, I need somewhere to live. And say, you want somewhere to live? And you just ask the question again, I need somewhere to live. And they say, you want somewhere to live? Because that's all they can say to you. Because you know why? Because they haven't built anything, right? But they've done all of that on purpose, right? All of this, a lot of this is a planting. And what gets me is how stupid the people in this country are. Because the people in this country are big, thick, backside heads, idiots, fools for voting in these clowns all the time. Constantly voting against their own interest, right? And now look at us. Highest utility cost, right, in Europe. How does that work? Our politicians should feel ashamed, but they don't, because they don't care. Why should they care? They'd only care, right, if people say, well, you know what, there's no way that these guys can ever be in power. That's the only way that's the only way they would care. Right? I was listening to Sean Bailey, right? And I'm thinking to myself, why is Sean Bailey arguing a point, right, that I agree with? He's a bloody Tory. He's not supposed to argue points that I agree with. He's talking about like the ULEZ on GB News. I'm just like, well, he's right. Because he's saying, this ULEZ is going to hit the working classes the hardest. And you've got Ken Livingstone sat next to him, talking about, when I first brought out the congestion charge, people was against it. But now say, no one's for it. No one's for the congestion charge. But these people like Ken Livingstone will just say, oh no, you're for the congestion charge, aren't you? Say, no, I'm not. I pay car tax. I pay tax for my vehicle already, right? And they can tax you by the emissions that you drive under. Okay, trust me on this, right? Because I've had cars, that are £500 a year in tax, right? And then I've had cars that are like under £60 a year in tax. Yeah. So they can. So believe me, if they want to, they can tax you appropriately for the car that you're driving. But no, they're just like, no. Right? And they'll tell you, it's amazing that someone like Sean Bailey, right, can be saying stuff, and I'm saying, well, actually he's right, and Sadiq Khan's a damn idiot. And welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages today. But a special thanks to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that signed up. So thank you so much for that. I'll go for all your messages. I'll answer as many as I can. But I will like all your messages for definite. We're going to start in America with Donald Trump and the launch of Donald Trump's new Trump cards. I'm just like, all of those people who go to Trump rallies, I think they need to take a long, hard look at themselves. Because I don't know if you've seen... Do you know, when I thought, oh no, this has got to be that Baldwin brother who does Donald Trump. I thought, no, it's got to be him. This has got to be a parody. This can't be Donald. Donald Trump hasn't got time to do this shit. But no, he has. Right. And I believe that all the cards have been sold out. But it's another way that you can just launder money to people, by doing all schemes like this. So that's probably what Donald Trump is more up to, because they've all sold out from what I know, right? But you think, well, who the hell have these things all sold out to? But they have all sold out. So I don't know. Do you know what I mean? But it was one of the most. It's got to be one of the most stupid things, right, I've seen a politician do. I mean, just ridiculously, And he's going to be president. He's trying to go for the presidency again, and I don't know. Even Steve Bannon looks at that's what, I'm done here. That's me. I'm done. Right, but then obviously he had to think to himself, hold on a minute, this man might become president again. He said, and all those people around him, it's their fault. say, come on, man, seriously, this shit is really serious. You can't allow, right? Seriously, you got, it's just like, who the hell, right, votes for these people? But we've got our equivalents over here. Do you know what I mean? Who I could look at and say, who the hell votes for these people? Anyway, let's move over to Italy, because Giorgia Meloni, right? I'm like, well, because obviously they said how far right this woman is, right? And I'm like, well, I don't know, because she was really calling out the French the other day, right, over their treatment to what they do to people in Africa. Right, and I mean, when I say she was really calling them out, I mean she was really calling them out. I mean, she was taking out pictures of children that are in that are working in diamond and gold mines and things like that, right, on behalf of the French, who take about £500 billion a year out of Africa, especially like the Ivory Coast, or what they call it, but they call it, what was it, Burkina Faso or something like that they call it, but it's the Ivory Coast. Right, but yeah. So I mean, she was really calling myself. I'm saying, well, you know what? Yeah, that if she's far right, then that part of her far right talk I really like, because I mean, when I tell you, she was really ripping into the French over their treatment of because obviously that France and Britain take a lot of money, and probably America too, take a lot of money out of Africa. Where do you think Elon Musk got all it? Where do you think Elon Musk got his money to start all his bullshit that he's doing? And let's speak about Elon Musk, because this man's a damn idiot. Right. Elon Musk, right, would be known as if he was in the Caribbean, he'd be known as damn fool man, right? Because this man is a stupid. Right? He actually had he was foolish enough to ask people on Twitter whether or not, right, he should stand down. And of course people are going to say, of course you should fucking stand down, because you're fucking it up. So yeah, you should stand down. And that's exactly what happened. Right? But you see, the thing with Elon Musk, right, is that people think that he's this absolute genius. Right? But you can have fantastic ideas, right? But if you haven't got any money to chuck at it, then you ain't going anywhere. Right? You can have fantastic ideas, and if you can find someone who backs you, who says, well, you know what, I like your ideas, I'm going to back you all the way. Yeah, fine. But if you've got fantastic ideas and you've got no money, that's all you've got is fantastic ideas. But once you've got that money, or you've got access to that money, there's a major difference in what you can do. And that's what's happened to Elon Musk. Because he's just used other people to his advantage. He wants to start because I think he start off with solar, right? But all of that now is just getting other people to put all those components together. Right? Same with Tesla. You've got the ideas, right? So, right, he may well have designed the first Tesla, right? But after that, right, he would have designers to design, design me some nice cars. You could probably steal designers from other car makers as well. Right. So once you've got the money to start throwing at these things, right, then yeah. But you see, Twitter was a whole different thing, because Twitter is basically just an app, and being in control of the whole thing is not as easy as Elon Musk thought it was going to be. Because how long, is he had a shorter lifespan than Liz Truss, right? Because already he's asking people to say, listen, I need to get some chief executives in there so they can run this shit for me, because I need to get the fuck out of it, because I'm really fucking up everything. I'm basically doing a Gerald Ratner on Twitter. And if you don't know what a Gerald Ratner is, then I suggest that you look it up on the internet. And Doddy Ware, right, an absolute Scottish legend when it comes to rugby, right, has passed away. I mean, he was born in 1970, I think, Doddy Ware, and he's only what's that make him, 51, 52, something like that, right? But he done so much for Montenegro disease because obviously, like, playing rugby, you take a lot of hard hits to your head and all that. And, we're not like the soft Americans with all of that body armor. No. In this country, right, rugby is played by men and women. Right, but it's a rough house game, rugby. There's no messing about when it comes down to it. So you could imagine that, like, your brain's going to be shaking about all the time. It's like they're trying to stop players from heading, especially in training. They're trying to stop players from heading balls and all that type of thing because of Montenegro disease. So he was a campaigner and he like made about something like £8 million. So done really really well. But it's just a shame that he's passed away. Very, very much a shame. And let's stay with sports because Argentina have won the World Cup finals. In one of the most fantastic games I've ever seen, especially when it comes to a World Cup final, just an absolute brilliant game. Because I mean, you've got some of the best players in the world, in Mbappe and Messi. But obviously, like, they still have to have, like, another 10 players that are absolutely fantastic, outstanding around them as well. So, but Argentina, after them losing their opening game to Saudi Arabia, right, they've come back and they've won it. Right? And I thought they was going to be a force to be reckoned with once they lost their first game like that. I thought, and to be honest, I thought the Germans was as well. But obviously, it didn't work out too well for the Germans this time. But, Argentina, so we say well done to Argentina. And obviously, Messi needed to get, he needed to get like the World Cup, innit? Just like Ronaldo needs to get it. But I think Ronaldo, his time is done now. But Messi's actually got it. And France, right, could have been like, I think, probably only the second country to have won it back to back, which Brazil done. Don't ask me what years, but I know Brazil has done it. But don't ask me what years, because it would have been well before I was probably even born. But I know they've definitely done it, Brazil. And Jordan McSweeney has got 38 years in prison for the murder of that young lady in Ilford. I think her name was Zara Lena. I think her name was. Right, I think he's about 30, Jordan McSweeney, right, and he was recalled to prison for not going to his probation. So he was recalled to prison. So the police was looking for him at the time when he committed these murders. But the problem is, right, it's because they've got a lot of this on CCTV, and I mean this guy is really evil, and he should never ever get let out of prison. But they've got a lot of him on CCTV, following different women on that night, and just like just unbelievable. I mean, the amount of women that actually escaped him on that night, because one woman, he was distracted because he was following some woman, and then he got distracted by someone that he knew. So she managed to get away. One woman ran off. Right, he got thrown out of the club because he was harassing the barmaids and all. And so it was, and a lot of people said, well, why didn't some of these people call the? But then a lot of things he was doing wasn't a crime. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you're harassing a barmaid or whatever, right? That's not going to be a crime. Do you know what I mean? The bouncers are there; they're going to throw you out the club. Right, so they're not gonna, expect you. This is the type of person who's gonna go off and murder a young lady on that night. Do you know what I mean? But the thing is, I mean, I would say that what's it, 38? So 42. So I reckon that it would be probably 46 years, right, before they would consider him to actually let him back out, because he's got to do 38 years before he can apply to get parole. And generally people don't get their first parole, so then the next one comes up 4 years after that, right? But people can be, there are people who have gone to prison for 6 months and then 30 years later they're still in prison because they if they deem you as a threat, then they will never let you out of prison. That's just how it works. But people don't really realise that in this country. But there are plenty of people who have gone to prison for short sentences, and they're just like, no, we're not letting you out ever again because you know what, you are a menace to society. So trust me, there's plenty of people in this country like that. I'm quite sure that guy Charles Bronson, I've probably changed his name by now, but I'm quite sure he didn't go to prison for a life sentence. But he's done so much things in prison that it's like, no, you need to stay right here because if you can't be disciplined in prison, then there's no way that the street can't do anything for you. And Rishi Sunak, as I said to you before, there's going to be so much backlashes because we've got those 60 MPs who have just told Rishi Sunak you can forget your housing plans. Now we've got loads who have come out about the wind turbine thing, and there's a backlash over wind turbines as well, right? But you see the thing with Rishi Sunak is like he's probably an introvert, and he probably gives speeches because he has to, but. I don't think because as a person who's the Prime Minister, right, you need to go around to companies all over this country and dress up in the same way they dress up. The workers who work in that company, like Boris Johnson always used to do. That's the type of stuff you need, and I don't really think that Rishi Sunak has really got that type of thing in him. Do you know what I mean? If you was to go to like an army barracks or whatever, right, the first thing you want to do is go and jump in the tank. That's what I'd want to do. If you go to the RF, the first thing you want to do is go in the fastest jet. Get yourself in there. Those are the type of things that, as a Prime Minister, you need to be seen doing. But it's not really for Rishi Sunak. I don't really think that type of thing for him. But speaking of like idiot politicians, right, we've got Pencil Neck Tin Lizzie Truss, right, where drugs was found at her official residence, I think when she was the Foreign Secretary. Well, the drugs, obviously, like, the several drugs, the paraphernalia, and obviously, like, there was white powder found, and there was a test. Apparently, there was a test done on it, right, and it came up as cocaine. You see these people, right? What you got to understand about these people, right? They, cause remember they always talk about like middle class drug use, but this is not, but that's not middle, their drug use is not middle class. That's upper class drug use. They never speak about that. Speak about middle class drug use. But upper class drug use, never speak about that. Because upper class drug use would be them. There was, spots of cocaine found in Downing Street when Boris Johnson was the Prime Minister too. So, these people, right, they're so hypocritical. They're such hypocrites, right? That I think that she would have probably known that was going on in her house anyway. And is John Redwood one of the most stupid politicians ever? He could well be, because this man is thick, right? And that's going up against Chris Grayling, Nadine Dorries, even Mr. Woodrush, shut up and go away. Gavin Williamson, right? All these people, right? I mean, you could even throw, America's answer to Nadine Dorries, but just with like a large, 2 large whiskies, 4 ecstasy pills, a gram of cocaine, and weed, right? That's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Right, but I think, right, that he's taken the stupid to a new level, John Redwood. I mean, this guy's thick. This guy is he's one of the most stupid people you could possibly meet. I don't think you could meet much people more stupid than John Redwood. John Redwood has said that NHS managers should just put more beds in hospitals. I'm going to leave that right there. Steve Barclay has said he cannot guarantee patients' safety over Christmas. Well, of course he can't. Because, he doesn't care about patients' safety over Christmas. That's what you've got to imagine. He doesn't care. Why would he care? Why would Tories care about the people who enjoy the highest utility cost in Europe? I mean, they do that to us, so why would they care about anything else? Junior doctors could go on strike. Steve Barclay should be dealing with that, because junior doctors could be looking to go on strike. Because the junior doctor earns like what, about £14 an hour when they just when they just when it's qualified, right? But they leave with like 80 or 90 grand's worth of debts, because remember they have to spend a lot of time at university. They have to do a master's in it, right? So they spend a lot of time at university. So it's 80 or 90 grand, and then to come out and they're earning 14 pounds an hour, which once upon a time would have been pretty decent wages. But it can't be decent wages when you've got to pay so much for your housing costs, right? That's and then your fuel costs, and then all the other taxes that you have to pay, right, before you can think about buying yourself a new pair of moccasins, right? So because £30,000 once upon a time would have been saying, oh, it's good money. Not now. You've got people on 30, 40 grand, right, who can barely afford to live. You have to go past that. You have to go past that threshold, right, of probably £60,000 nowadays. That's if you're single. £60,000. You have to go past that threshold before you can think, yeah, I'm okay. Obviously the politicians are, they're 20 odd grand over that. Right, with all the expenses. So £14 for a junior doctor, considering that people who are working in, I think, supermarkets they're over £10. They're over £10 an hour now, isn't it? So a doctor, and because then if supermarkets are at that, then you're going to have jobs where people who haven't gone to college for 6 or 8 years, to university, for 6 or 8 years, and they are earning more, or the same as a junior doctor who's got 80 or 90 grand worth. No wonder they're thinking of going on strike. Jeremy Clarkson thinks Meghan Markle should be paraded through the streets naked and have shit thrown at her. Jeremy Clarkson is a misogynistic, racist fucking idiot, right? Because you know what? He would never say that about Kate, and the newspapers in this country would find it completely unacceptable. He wrote this in The Sun. The newspapers in this country would find it completely unacceptable for him to say that about Kate. But because Meghan Markle is a black woman, it's quite fine. It's imagine now, on Question Time you'd have a Tory MP, right, come out and say, how dare these people say this about Kate, if it was about Kate. Right, but Jeremy Clarkson can say these things about a black woman, and that's perfectly fine for our media. I think we should speak about some Brexit, because I'm already 28 minutes in, and I shouldn't be. But let's speak about some Brexit. David Frost was handed £26,000, right, when he resigned as the Brexit negotiator. And they say to you, we can't afford to pay the nurses any more money. What the hell they need it for? Why the hell would Lord fucking Frost need an extra 26 motherfucking grand, right? For what? I don't think, right, that... In fact, I believe that one day working as a nurse is more helpful to this country than David Frost has ever been. Just one day. David Frost can be given £26,000. What for? Yeah, take that. For the nurses, 1 minute we're clapping them, the next minute we're slapping the shit out of them. Right, saying, you know what, you go on strike. Don't worry about it. Piss off, go on strike. Next week we're gonna have soldiers, manning the barracks. It might be this week actually. Soldiers driving ambulances and working at the borders. Soldiers, as if this motherfucking shit is Zim motherfucking Zimbabwe. Soldiers. Right. Soldiers should only come out, right, if your country is being attacked. Soldiers shouldn't have, maybe, for the floods. I agree with you using soldiers to help with the floods and things like that, right? But when it comes down to driving ambulances, no, those people should be being paid enough money that they don't need to go on strike, and they should have enough colleagues, right, that they don't have to go and work 12-hour days, right, and not get paid for an extra 4 hours or whatever, because that's what happens with these guys. They don't get paid that extra money. They're all salaried. They don't get paid that extra money. It's just like, oh, well, you know what? Can you help? Can you do it? Can you help? If they was all to say, no, we can't work to rule, then this country would fall to pieces in a second. We didn't vote for this. Anger over Brexit failures is haunting the Tories, says the Observer. And you know something, right? Those woke lefties should shut up, because remember, they're just the Observer is just the Sunday Guardian, right? So those woke lefties should shut up. Brexit is damaging the NHS with staff and medicine shortages. Now, we knew that this was going to happen because we told you that this was going to happen. And a study has found this, says the Independent. But this is, I say, well, is this what you say? Is this what you voted for? Yes, this is exactly what you voted for, because we told you that this was going to happen. And people was like, don't call us stupid. How dare you call? We know what we're voting for. We're voting for shortages in the NHS for medicines and staff. That's what we're voting for, because that's what they told us. And they said to us, don't call us stupid. And we said, but when you're being stupid, we're not allowed to say it. No. Was Trump or Brexit the bigger mistake? Asked the Japanese Times. And there's a question. I would say that Brexit, because, at least, America can repair their damage, what Trump has gone and done. Right? Our damage is unrepairable. It's like, if someone takes your stereo and drops it out of 15 stories high, then your stereo is going to be unrepairable. Just in the same way, if a car crashes at 100 miles an hour, it's always unrepairable. This isn't F1, but it's always unrepairable. You crash your car at 100 miles an hour, it's never going back on the road. Ever, under any circumstances. It's going to be written off, just like Great Britain. Written off. Listen, guys, I'm going to tune out of here because I'm already 12 minutes over than I wanted to do. But this is Monday. So, Monday morning. And, and it's Christmas week, isn't it? So, the end of this week, Sunday this week is Christmas. But I don't think I'm going to take any type of break. I'm going to be here to annoy people. Anyway, guys, look, I'm going to make my way out of here. This, my friends, is By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.